Time for prospects 80 to 61 here in Just Baseball's top 100 prospect list. On the call up, you got me, Aram Layton, and Jack McMullen, who's in another room in my place right now, which is nice. So we're doing the separate but together recording because it's just easier technologically. But no, I'm really excited because we joke every time. But the players in this episode are even better than the ones in the last one, believe it or not. And there's a lot of really fun players here because we talked some newcomers in 100 to 81, but these are either climbers or recent draftees that may have slipped a little bit, or some newcomers that flew into the rankings. I don't know if anybody's a newcomer within 80. We'll have to double check. I'd have to think about it. But
I think there is
a hybrid of storylines, I think, through this range here.
I think I'm counting 2 or 3 guys that are new to the top 100 that are inside the top 80 too. So we've got that cooking right now. We're past best shape of your life season.
Yes.
We're getting near the point of passing pitchers are better than the hitters or are farther ahead than the hitters season. And now we're at this crop is better than the previous crop season, which is good. And this is the cycle of the off season. By the way, thanks for the mic. I may never give it back.
Yeah, it's great. You sound wonderful.
Crisp. Yeah.
So this is one of what now we have 3 more or 4. I can't do the math. 3 more after this. 4.
3 more after this.
3 more
including
after
this. We have 4 episodes of Top 100 Countdown. There are 5 times 20 players each episode is 100, and you wrote 100 write-ups.
Attaboy. Yeah, that's good stuff. Before we get into it, very excited to get into the top 10 in that final episode because, wow, people had a lot to say about the top 10 on social media, but it's also social media. But again, you can always follow along with the link in the episode description. And we've been having a lot of really fun discourse in our Discord where we've already got over 200 members in there, which is crazy. So it's been really fun communicating with people there and very freeing, where I don't have to have the back and forths on Twitter/X with people just saying, this list sucks. Dalton Rushing is not a top 10 prospect. And instead, talk to people and say, what made Dalton Rushing a top 10 guy or whatever? What makes it better than Basayo? Here's why I disagree. We're having a really fun conversation in there. And I'm enjoying the people in the Discord. Link to that to join that as well is in the episode description.
What I may say, it may not be fun for you, but it's really fun for me watching you try and have these conversations on Twitter because they're never going to acknowledge what you're saying. Unlike in our Discord, where it's actually just a group text for baseball.
Yeah.
So you can register what you are saying, listen and say, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. And you can have a more organic conversation. Who would have known that those were going to be the better conversations than what we have on that social media platform?
Thank you so much to those who have hopped in and joined it. It's been so much fun talking with you all and answering questions, sending guys some info, data, video, just talking ball. And we've got the draft vertical in there as well that I know people have been having a great time with our On the Clock guys, the betting side of things with Peter. That's been really fun. The general MLB chat. I've been talking cards with people in there, and we're going to have bonus content in there as well as we continue to build up the Discord, but we'll be doing bonus Q&As, bonus stuff left and right, giveaways, and a lot more fun things in there. So the link to join that is in the episode description. We got a deal right now, 50% off in the first month to join. But as people on YouTube generally like to say, can you just get into it already? So let's get into it already. And you can follow along with the screen or with the link in the episode description. And we start with Moises Ballesteros, who last time I put out the top 100, this was a name that people yelled at me a lot about. And not last time, 2 times ago, actually, because he wasn't in there. And you know what? Valid, because the bat is too darn good. And that's why he's climbed up slowly but surely. I still don't know about the defense. We're just going to keep revisiting this conversation. And ultimately, it's just going to be a matter of seeing him at the big league level and seeing if something can click up there. The big thing with him, and I think where you and I are aligned, we've kind of had similar experiences seeing him in similar contexts because we saw his AAA debut together. We saw him in the fall league together. So a lot of the same ABs, and we came away with the same takeaways, which is this guy's bat, one way or another, is going to ensure that he has a good big league career, or at least just is going to be around for a while. The floor at this point is clearly just Daniel Vogelbach. And I know that sounds bad, but I'm saying that's the rock bottom floor, which is a big leaguer who hung around for a long time. And I think bat alone can be comfortably better than that. The ceiling is much higher than that. And the median outcome is even higher than that. But it's just abundantly clear that if he can catch, it changes everything. And fill in wherever I leave anything out there for you. If you have any other feelings as it pertains to Ballesteros.
If he can catch, it changes everything because first base is not a fallback. We talk about some other catching prospects in minor league baseball, and we can pivot to the idea of them playing first base. We already saw Josue Briseño in the Tigers organization pivot to first base. We know that if Lorenzo needs to in the Tigers organization, he can pivot to first base. We know that Agustin Ramirez in the Marlins organization can pivot to first base because these are all big enough people that can handle it. Ballesteros is 5'8". He's not playing first base. So it's either catcher or DH.
Yep.
And I mean, Las Montes is 81. Like, I know he was the last guy we talked about on the last episode, but that's where you put a DH. And it feels like Laz's offensive profile is, kind of punching in a similar weight class to Moises Ballesteros. Ballesteros is a bit more complete of a hitter than I think Montes is.
Yeah.
But in terms of offensive output, equating to a certain value, it feels like it's a pound of brick and a pound of feathers here, and they're kind of sort of the same thing.
Yep.
And the thing that puts Ballesteros just a spot ahead of Las Montes is that he may be able to catch.
Yeah, dude, that was fantastic.
Yeah, you bet.
You nailed that. But I agree with you. Like that is exactly where I'm at. And I mean, I will say Ballesteros offensively, he just seems to keep getting better and better. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, what are we dreaming on? I think you can dream on 30 homers. I don't know if that's the type of hitter he's going to be. I think he's best when he's scorching line drives to all fields, then happens to hit 20 to 25, but it's a ton of doubles and whatever else it may be. I know some people may ask, well, what if you just throw him in a corner? I'd love to see him in a corner outfield spot.
No.
But that would be the only place that he could feasibly play. Like, I would put him in left field before I put him at first because he'd be the shortest first baseman, I think, in Major League Baseball history, and he can't move that well. That also hurts him in a corner, but like maybe he just jogs to the routine balls and that's what you do. The realistic scenario here is if he's even a below average catcher, you get him to a point where his receiving and blocking is good enough that he can catch 2 days a week. And then he's DHing the other days. And you just have to accept that he clogs the DH spot a little bit. And if that's the case, the bat just has to be good enough to justify it. And that's the problem, so to speak, is that he needs to be a 130 WRC plus to justify that, which I very much think he can be. But it does limit the value from a WAR perspective.
Yeah, and I think the Cubs are in a unique situation with Ballesteros because they are in win now mode, obviously. But then if Kyle Tucker doesn't come back, you're looking at this opportunity to move Seiya Suzuki going into his final year of control at $19 million. And Seiya is good enough to make $19 million movable.
Oh, yeah.
So like we're looking at a roster that could change over the course of the next year. And what Ballesteros has given the Cubs is a guy that has flown through exceptionally quickly. So you have a ton of time. You can shield him in AAA all you want this year. And say somebody gets hurt and you have DH reps available, Ballesteros can take those DH reps. It's going to come down to, I think, at a certain point, Ballesteros versus Owen Casey for available at-bats if there's an injury this year. But if there is no injury and the Cubs have a perfect health year when it comes to their star outfielders and the DH spot, I mean, Ballesteros could hang out in AAA, catch 110 times this year out of 150 games, and then be ready to take over after Carson Kelly is done or after they trade Seiya.
Yep, I agree. And I think he should be catching as much as possible in AAA. But the bat, I mean, you're looking at well above average raw power that, he just hits the ball hard to all fields. The natural hitting ability is just hard to deny. And the feel for the barrel for such a quick and powerful swing stands out. And he's just been doing it again here in spring training, 9 for 21 with a homer and a triple, which is crazy. So it's been cool to see him just continue to mash in a lot of ways. I think that the triple was on like a backfields game or whatever, but I saw a video of it and it counts. So we're going to give him that triple as well, where he had a pair of hits there. But on the big league spring training side of things, he is 6 for 17. That's pretty darn good.
It's pretty good. That's over 333.
Yes, sir. Good math again.
Yeah.
Number 79, Braden Montgomery of the Chicago White Sox, not the Red Sox, the White Sox, big part of that Garrett Crochet deal. we're going to, and this was a question we actually got in the Discord, kind of why is Montgomery behind a lot of the other college bats that you guys have ranked pretty high there? And the injury is not necessarily a big part of that. I'm still expecting Montgomery to be a very, very solid bat right away and have his legs under him, no pun intended. Like, he's already back playing in spring training games. He looks fine. I just think that there's a little bit more risk with his bat than the other top tier college bats that we've seen. There's a lot more effort in the swing. It's I think not as adjustable. So you have some swing and miss in there. It's a switch hitter here that made a lot of progress bat to ball wise, but I still think has more progress to make. So yes, coming off the injury, that is something to monitor, but I'm not too worried about it because it's just kind of seems like just a fluky thing that happened. But the reason why he's a little bit behind these other guys is he's a power hitting corner outfielder who I think is going to swing and miss and does chase a little bit. So I just think there's more hit tool concern with him than some of the other guys. You could say Condon has hit tool concern as well, but Condon obviously comes with even more prodigious power and a little bit more of a track record now after the last year, and I think just a bit more to dream on offensively. Montgomery is a guy that I could absolutely see flying up, but just a little bit further behind these other guys because I do have some concern about the hit tool and the approach, potentially limiting his ability to get into that plus raw power.
There were just a couple of grades that jumped out to me when it came to Braden Montgomery. And I feel like this guy was hard to evaluate because you're only working with college. Like, you're only working with metal bat. That's all you're getting with this guy. And you didn't have that, albeit small for some guys, but 25, 30 game pro sample that you allowed a clearer picture to be painted with. Like Charlie Condon, you have a bit clearer of a picture. Caglione, you have a bit clearer of a picture. Bazana, Weatherholt, all these guys. Braden Montgomery, you don't have that opportunity. So hit tool was the one that jumped out, but you just explained that. The one to me, this guy was one of the national leaders in homers last year. Why cap at 60 grade game power? Is it like the EVs were hot because they were metal and you worry that they might take a step back with wood?
I think, that could be one where I end up recalibrating, but it's the angles at which he hits the ball too, where I just don't know if there's enough loft there to get into, 60 grade is going to have him close to 30 homers, 25 to 30 homers, where I think if you're going to get to 35 and beyond, which is going to be the 65, 70 grade, I just feel like you got to be hitting the ball in the air a little bit more consistently. Real quick before I forget to and then I'll go to the hard hit launch angle side of things. Against non-fastballs last year, hit 210. So
all right,
that's something I'm concerned about.
And there's the hit tool right there.
Yeah, that's the hit tool. And then I just looking at the batted ball data and the angles at which he's hitting a lot of balls, the ground ball rate kind of crept up there, especially from the left side where it would start to creep closer to 50%. But it is one where like he may end up just leaning into the power more. And maybe that was why is just trying to make more consistent contact last year as well. You saw those ground ball rates creep up a little bit, but that's something that could totally change. I could see it potentially getting to 65 grade, but I think part of it too is he was putting up those EVs and he definitely looked like he had added some impact and obviously cut down on the whiff a little bit, but there is a lot of effort in that swing and it's fine. Like he's getting it off, but he's max effort swinging. How much more pop is in there? I don't know. Maybe if he finds a little bit more loft, it can be there, but the raw EVs could point towards closer to 65 grade game power. So that's one that I think we just have to kind of wait and see what it looks like with wood and in the game setting and then go from there.
Only other one is 50 grade defender. We saw him throw upper 90s on the hill. Are the reads what kind of takes him below that 60? Because he's got a hose.
Yeah, the arm's ridiculous. It's probably an 80 grade arm out there, but the reads and the closing speed, he's a fine runner, but he's not like he's chewing up ground out there or has the recovery speed. So it's really just kind of 50s across the board and then the 80 defensive or the 80 arm. So maybe that could push him to 55, but to me, it just seems like it's going to be more of average defense in a corner accentuated by the arm, but yeah, you can only get so much value out of the arm being your leading tool, even as a corner guy.
Sure.
78. Well, you can get a lot more value out of your arm being the leading tool when you're a pitcher. But Thomas Harrington, his unique release and just what he brings to the table, it's just such a well-rounded pitching profile. And we talked about some of the highest floor guys. Thomas Harrington, the Pirates, it's one of the higher floor arms you're going to find. And I mean, pretty much since we did the Pirates system 2 years ago, Thomas Harrington's been a guy that just looking at him and just saying, this is a big league arm one way or another. Is it a 5 or is it a 3? We'll find out. I think over the last year, he's progressed closer to that 3 range. I still think 3 is ambitious. I think he settles right in between those two, and he's a solid 4. But when you've got 3 above average pitches and plus command, I mean, you're going to be a big league starter for a long time. And you got a chance to watch him go about his business. You got a chance to talk to him in Indy plenty. I know this is a guy that you have the utmost confidence in just carving out a nice big league career one way or another.
You mentioned he was going to be a big league arm one way or another. I'll take it a step further. He was going to be a big league starter one way or another. Like, he was going to figure out a way to throw every 5th day in the major leagues for, 6 years. Like, he'll get to free agency as a starting pitcher. And something that, like, his priority last year was fastball shape, optimizing fastball shape. And for a guy that is that young, that has already gotten to AAA, for his priority to be fastball shape, that means he has a lot of boxes that have already been checked. And he's checked pretty much every box. And you've got it here. Like, the 60 command is the biggest one for me. You can't work on fastball shape until you know you're landing 3 pitches for strikes. Yeah. And he's landing 3 pitches for strikes whenever he wants. The strike rate in some of his outings in Altoona and in Indianapolis, and some of the first pitch soft contact I saw from him in AAA, like, this guy knows how to command an AB. So now it's a matter of maybe upping the whiff a little bit, which is what elevates him from a 4 or a 5 to a 3 starter. And that's like the final step that he needs to take. Is it going to happen in AAA? Is it going to happen in the big leagues? It feels like he's got the better chance. And I know it's not happening with Bubba because he was assigned to minor league camp, but like, he's got the better chance to break camp and probably acclimate pretty quickly.
Yeah. And just be that prototypical innings eater at least, because he's just any pitcher is going to have a blow-up outing, but relative to others, it just seems like he's going to be more impervious to those blow-up outings than a lot of other arms, because he's going to find the zone even when he's off. He's going to get guys to get themselves out, and when he needs the whiff, he can get it. I agree. I think that is the one thing to monitor is, can he find a little bit more swing and miss? We've seen that slider flash plus. So I think just finding more consistency with that pitch, burying it, a little bit more bite to it. And I'm sure he's been working this offseason to just find which one of the offerings can emerge as a bit more of a consistent swing and miss pitch. I think it's that slider, and we saw in spring training, it looked a little bit more like that clear swing and miss pitch. You talk about fastball shape too. He gets good vert from a below average release height. And as the season progressed, he got closer to that 16 inches of vert, which from like a 5.5 release height is above average carry. And when you're placing it where you want to place it, that's going to be a pitch that generates enough swing and miss, but also gets a lot of pop-ups and weak contact and just avoids barrels and avoids just consistently getting hit hard. But I'm really interested to see the progress of the changeup too. And I'm curious, in the starts that you saw, that was that splitter. Like, that's a pitch that, understandably so, was not there for him as much as the others. We're talking about a 72% strike rate on the fastball and almost a 70% strike rate on his sweeper and a 73% strike rate on the cutter. The splitter was 62%. That's a totally different pitch, and it's one that he's still trying to get comfortable with. When he had it, though, it looked like a decent offering for him.
Yeah, I think so. And it's not a pitch that, like, he's going to be landing for strikes all the time. I think that can be his taste breaker out pitch. So it's like he can work off the fastball with a split when he's going right. And for the most part, he's going to be that fastball sweeper, and maybe he shortens it up. And like, if he does go from flashing plus to legit plus with the slider, you would assume that the cutter starts flashing plus, because that would be kind of like similar arm action.
Yeah.
So, all right, say all that happens. He can live with that. And then if he has a fastball that he feels like the split could dive off of, then all of a sudden you can go to that split. So I feel like he's going to use that, and he plays the chess game. I feel like he's going to use it strategically, and that can be a good offering for him.
I mean, when it was around the zone, it was really good to lefties specifically. He used it 27% of the time to left-handed hitters, and chase rate of 38%, and they hit just 140 against it.
Yeah,
you mentioned the cutter as well.
If he can start it at the knees and have it bottom out on guys, like that's huge.
Yeah, that's going to play. And then the cutters you mentioned, for the days that the splitter's not there, that's the other pitch that you can go to. And he picked up 36% chase rate on the cutter and enough end zone whiff numbers there as well. So he's just going to have ways to turn lineups over, lefties, righties. And I feel so good about his chances of just being able to eat innings, which is part of the reason why I thought it was a little surprising that the Pirates went out and signed Andrew Heaney, when I understand you can't just Sharpie in prospects to succeed for you, but pitchers that can feel a little bit more confident when you got multiple arms to fill just a couple spots as well. And I would have rather just rolled Harrington out there and seen what he can do, but you know how it goes. It ends up working itself out anyway, especially on the pitching side. And I'm sure Harrington's going to throw plenty of innings for them this year. 77, Jaison Chourio of the Cleveland Guardians. And Chourio is, it's funny because the name, anytime you hear like a Chourio, a Cunha or whatever, they end up becoming a little bit buzzier maybe than they should be. And that may not be fair because it results in maybe some premature prospect fatigue. But Chourio, I think, did everything you wanted to see him do this past year, where the approach and the feel to hit have really stood out for him through the lower levels. And since he was signed as a $1.2 million IFA guy in 2022, but he also started to hit the ball harder this past year and made some progress defensively. I still don't think he's a true center fielder, but made some progress. You saw him walk more than he struck out while hitting the ball harder than he ever hit it. And he put together a really nice age 19 season at low A, where he was actually 18 at the start of the year.
Yeah, what he did in that like full age 19 season, in earnest age 19 season, was incredible. And I mean, I just look at the K totals, man. Like, I'm looking at him getting off the complex in his age 18 season in 2023, and he's not K'ing. It was a 321 clip, and he gets to Lynchburg and like he struck out a little bit. So then he spends the whole year there in 24, and he's not K'ing. Even 7 big league plate appearances. I know it's a tiny, tiny sample. He only K'd once. He's 19 years old. Yeah. Like, the fact that this guy is able to hold his own at this point, and I feel like it's that blend of hit and plate discipline that you have here, like both plus or flashing plus, that can carry him a long way. And it's a matter of the defense to make him Cleveland's next, scrappy, slap hitting corner outfielder that, can be very good for them.
Yeah, and if he moves off a center, obviously the value is so much higher if he's playing center field. But I still think it's kind of baked into this ranking is him moving over to left field. If I had confidence he'd stick in center, he's probably closer to a top 50 prospect. Him in left field is still a top 100 prospect because of what you said. Potential plus hit tool, switch hitter, who has good plate discipline and is a plus runner and a great asset on the base paths as well. Yeah. So you figure the speed can convert into at least average defense in the corner, and the power, it's never going to be super impactful because he likes to put the ball on the ground a little bit. It's a flatter swing, which is why he makes a lot of contacts, but hitting the ball harder this past year, 90th percentile of 103, that's enough to where he can be gap to gap, sneak out 10 to 15 homers and give you a ton of value as an on-base guy. Good feel to hit from both sides. The left-handed swings ahead of the right-handed swing, which is if you're going to have one swing ahead of the other, which almost every young hitter does, that's how you want to see it, right? And this is a guy that had an 831 OPS from the left side, 710 from the right side. So what I like about the right side, though, is, okay, the bat to ball is not as good. He doesn't hit the ball as hard, but he's even more patient. So he's just going to grind out at bats and still be better than a lot of hitters are left on left. And that's all you really want and really need. But he could continue to progress. And I think high A is going to be a great test for him here, but he still also has all the time in the world to continue to progress. So, bloodlines are obviously there. There's a lot to like with Chourio, and he's a guy that I could easily see have more helium. There might be more power in there. He's got plenty of room to add more strength. So who knows? Average power could be in the tank. Yep. Number 76 is a player that was very difficult for me to rank, and I'll kind of lay it all out. We talked about him when we went to the Cardinal system, but Tink Hence. Hence, in terms of stuff, it can be up there in tier 1B, or you could really say tier 1 of pitching prospects. But just every time I check in, I just continue to be a little bit more concerned about the reliever risk. The command is gotten to a point where I think it's fine enough to envision a starter, but the velocity fluctuation and health concerns just continue to be there. And we know how careful that they were with him through the first year, 2 years really, of his professional career. We see him kind of have the training wheels taken off a bit in 23. And then 24, we start to see him go 7 innings in some outings. And see, he went 6 innings in 3 consecutive outings where he looked really solid. But then after that, velocity just started to seesaw. And that was the concern, right? He missed 3 weeks in June. And then after that, it was still more of some outings he's throwing 95, some outings he's throwing 92, some outings he's throwing 93. I don't know what to make of all that. But you do have a pitcher here with 3+ offerings and a 4th above average one. So where do you rank a guy like that? It's so tough.
It's impossible. And the thing is, like, I think I would have more clarity on Tink Hence if his starts when he was 92 were really bad. But at the end of the day, he was good. Like, opponents hit 204 against him this year, and he had a 2.7 in 80 innings in Double A as a 21-year-old. He has thrown, I think, 236 minor league innings, and I still know nothing about him. Like, that's the way that I look at Tink Hence. I don't know how to project you as a Major League Baseball player, and you should probably have that figured out within the first 100 innings of a guy's professional career. We're near 240 in, and I have no idea whether he's a reliever, whether he's that flighty back-end starter that can give you 5 no-hit innings one day, or he's a 2. He looks like all of them at the same time. I can't imagine the mental pretzel you were in when trying to place this guy.
Well, and his identity has changed a little bit as a pitcher. And to his credit, though, because it's a better identity in 24 in terms of the stuff. But we're talking about a guy here who, in 2023, he threw his fastball 57% of the time. He had the breaking ball that he landed for a strike just 59% of the time and didn't really perform as well. And then his changeup, which did get the most swing and miss for him, was only a strike 50% of the time. So he only threw it at about a 14% clip. Then you get to this past year. Now he's throwing a different breaking ball. It's more of a shorter slider, which is much more effective. But then he also still mixes in the curveball at about a 13% clip. The changeup, again, his most dominant pitch, but still only landing at first strike at a 54% clip. So your best pitch is the pitch you also don't have the best feel for. So is that your best pitch? You scrap the curveball, which actually, not scrap, but you kind of demote it, which I'm okay with. But that pitch actually ended up performing better than the slider, but maybe that was because he didn't use it as much. And the slider was very effective. But in terms of whiff numbers, all of a sudden that other breaking ball was better. I still think the slider is better because he used it more and it's more reliable and he landed it for a strike more often. But I think it's kind of depending on how he's feeling and where his arm's at that day kind of dictates which pitches he wants to use too. And it's just trying to figure out what the best version of Tink Hence looks like as well from a pitch usage perspective and in general.
So like you ask that as a question that doesn't need to be answered, but I ask you, like, do you think you know the answer, like the pathway to an answer? Because I can't even start to like map out what I think Tink Hence's like optimized arsenal looks like.
I think it was what we saw in the outings that he was on, where it was forcing fastball and slider heavy to righties with the taste breaking curveball.
Sure.
And then to lefties, that changeup. It's crazy from that release point. Big swing and miss numbers, but if it's not there, okay, you still have the curveball to mix in. But the problem is those are 2 pitches that he was not nearly as consistent with. That said, he maintained pretty solid splits, and I think just the performance of his fastball helped him do that, as it just was better than it was the year before.
Yeah.
But that's the good thing, is he has multiple offerings that he can go to if one's not there for him. But the challenge is, if the fastball velocity's down, yes, he made it work in Double A. Is he going to be able to deal with that at the big league level with those fluctuations? I don't know. And ultimately, with the injuries that he's had over the last couple of years, is there a move to the bullpen that maybe makes sense? I could see it. The stuff would be great out of there, but his arsenal points towards the rotation. So this is going to be a very telling year, I think, for Tink Hence, where I imagine they start him in AAA. And you see how things go there. But this will kind of tell us what direction they probably want to go with him, given that he's going to be has a 40-man spot, and they probably want to get this thing moving to see what they want to do at the big league level with him.
Memphis is going to be a fun watch at the beginning of the year. I have no idea how they're going to do, everything in the starting rotation, but it does seem like we could see Hence, Matthews, and McGreevy all throwing in Memphis at the beginning of the year. And sucks for Cardinals fans because I'm sure they want to see all three of them, but it's good for the prospect heads.
Yeah. Yeah. Memphis is not going to be a rotation you want to run into. That's for sure. You get the stuff of Hence, then you get the command of McGreevy, and then you get the hybrid of a Matthews. That's not fun.
No.
We're going to get to 75 here, which is Starlyn Caba in a moment. Before that, our first break. All right, 75 is Marlins shortstop Starlyn Caba. And I'll open the floor to you. You've been around camp a little bit, and you think he's going to stick it short?
It sounds like he has second base risk, but some DH risk as well. I have heard 80 thrown around defensively, and you've got 70 future defensively, and that it may be people being hyperbolic, but it's knowing what you acquired in this Luzardo deal and knowing that this guy just might have God's gift to play shortstop. And okay, he works really hard at it, and I've seen him put in the work. Dude, I mean, they get going really early in the morning. I see him, 7:45, 8 a.m. doing stuff. And I've seen him doing his sprints at 8 a.m. But I mean, this guy, it seems like he is meticulous defensively. He said to Kevin Burrell, right, a Fish on First, that 70% of his focus is defensively.
Yes.
He could be one of the best defensive shortstops that we've seen in the minor leagues in a while.
Yep. Yeah. It was hard. It's so hard to put 80 future when he hasn't defended above the complex for more than 30 games. Yeah. So that was the hard part for me, but I can understand if you're watching this guy get his work in every single day, then you could feel comfortable enough to say that's 80 future. And I'm kind of prepared. I'm mentally prepared to watch him this year when I'm going to the complex and going to these low A games and come away and say, all right, going to need to go edit that to 80 future, because it's not just the Marlins that are saying that. You're hearing that around the industry. And that was the buzz even when he was with the Phillies, and that was a conversation amongst the Phillies brass as well. This guy just seems to shock people with how natural he makes shortstop look for an 18 now recently turned 19-year-old. And it's because he's a compact guy. He's not the biggest in the world. You expect him to be rangy and quick. You don't expect him to then you expect him to get to the ball. You don't expect him to then get to a ball way in the hole and then uncork a plus arm throw from his frame. So it's okay, he can get to everything and then he can make these throws that no guy with his build should be able to make. That's the gift of God part, I think, where it's how does a guy with that quickness and that looks like that look like he can get on the mound and throw 93? And that's the thing that stands out defensively to me.
The guy that you want to comp it to when you hear that, because he looked skinny, was Andrelton Simmons, but Simmons was 5 inches taller. Simmons was 6'2", and I feel like that kind of
levers matter when you're throwing, for sure.
Yeah, that height actually matters because you have the longer levers. You can really get into that. The fact that he's 5'9" and has the rotational power to fire off, whatever they may be. I don't know any of the infield across the diamond velocities from him, but the fact that he can make any throw ranging to his backhand at
any angle too.
Yeah, dude. And he's got that rotational athleticism, which makes me think that 20 game power can push to 30, like you're saying.
Yeah. I was thinking about it. I'm like, how different is he from an Enrique Bradfield Jr., really, who we're going to talk about in a moment, where he doesn't have 80 wheels. I've seen 70 wheels, but that's another one. I got to see it. I couldn't really get a fair gauge on the speed. 60, 70, whatever. It's clearly plus. But you have a guy here that guaranteed is going to be a wizard defensively at a premium spot and is going to steal bags. Maybe not to the Bradfield degree, but I think that's going to be a focus for Caba, I imagine, is just continuing to be more of an asset as a base stealer. So you can just squeeze out every drop. But what I look at is the chase rate, where he's chasing 13% of the time. So he's going to walk a ton, and he's not going to strike out a ton. But the question becomes, okay, yeah, we know he's making a lot of contact, but what's the quality of contact going to look like? And it's hard to know with an 18-year-old who spends 70% of his time defending. And I know that offense is going to be a focus, and he's going to continue to try to tap into more there. But when you have the peripherals here that he has he doesn't need to do much from an impact perspective because he's going to walk no matter what the level is. He's going to spoil a ton of pitches and be difficult to strike out no matter what the level is. It's just, what does the quality of contact look like? And that's what we're seeing with Bradfield, and he's improved that slightly. But no matter what, he's been a highly regarded prospect. I think that's what we're going to kind of see with Caba, where people are like, oh, well, why is the average so low if the contact rates are so high? Well, it's a work in progress here. But if Caba can even be what's crazy is you look at the hit tool, it looks like it should be plus. The plate discipline could be plus. If he's getting into 30 grade power, it's gap to gap. That's all he needs. But I think it's just finding more consistent quality of contact at this point, which he's got plenty of time to figure out.
He has all the time in the world, and you have no idea what the progression is going to look like, but the defense is never going to be a question. So I feel like that percentage will probably pivot at some point from 70% working on defense to 70% you're in the cage. If this guy eats some ground beef, dude, I mean, we could be looking at him as a top 50 prospect in baseball.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if the EVs can climb a little bit and the angles, just more line drives, shooting them around the field, he's going to be in a really good spot. But when you run an in-zone contact rate north of 91% and a chase rate south of 15%, you're in rare company, no matter what the level is. Yeah. Speaking of, it's funny. I didn't even intentionally do this. I forgot that Bradfield was the next prospect, but they're very similar if you think about it. 74 is Enrique Bradfield Jr., who gets a little bit of the edge just because I think you can dream on more impact with Bradfield. They both are, at the end of the day, 30 future game power. But when you think about just the EVs and being able to sneak balls through, Bradfield's a bigger guy. Like, he's 6'1", 170, and I think has a little bit more room to fill out. You don't want to fill out too much because, of course, you want him to be that speedster. But he's also an 80 grade runner who could potentially, I think if there's one threat in the minor leagues to be able to get close to Chandler Simpson's stolen base numbers, it's probably Enrique Bradfield Jr. A lot of the same things that he does well is Caba, though, right? Where you're getting plus defense, you're getting great bat to ball and elite plate discipline. It almost guarantees that he's going to be a big leaguer in some capacity. But I think we're seeing with Bradfield now is maybe there's a little bit more impact that he can tap into all of a sudden. And if he's getting the gap to gap impact going for him, that's definitely all he needs. But I think you're seeing a guy that might be able to sneak out 5, maybe 10 as he matures, but he doesn't really need to, is the thing. He did sneak out 4 last year, though, which was good to see.
So one more follow-up on the Caba front. When you mentioned maybe 10, like, could Caba sneak out 5, maybe 10? Like, it feels like he is more surefire 5 than Bradfield.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I would agree with that. And then on the other side, though, you could maybe say that his hit tool is ahead of where Bradfield's was 4 years ago. Bradfield's 23.
Right.
Caba's 19. So 4 years ago, where was Bradfield's hit tool? Probably not quite there.
Right.
So the challenge, though, is just how much is he going to impact the baseball? Sneaking the pull side power was good to see. Seeing that hard hit rate just get over 30% was good to see from Bradfield, where he's sneaking in enough 95s. But the floor is a 4th outfielder, and I think he continues to elevate that by showing that he can hit for a little bit more average. It was a disappointing draft year. We've talked about that on the show. Yeah. It was a disappointing draft year for him. He would have been a top 10 pick had he shown that he could hit for a little bit more average. He took a step forward. 270 batting average is fine. Getting on base at a 350 clip because he chases it at a 15% clip is great. But we saw him spray the ball over the yard a little bit more, and I think that was definitely helpful for his overall output. And 5 triples, 4 homers, 18 doubles, that's enough. So if he's slugging in the high 300s, he's going to be in a good spot.
I think Baltimore is going to have zero issue letting Cedric Mullins walk next year because Bradfield is ready to go. He's ready to play center field on opening day 2026.
Yeah, and if he's your 9 hitter, if he's not hitting great out of the gate,
it's okay. He's an elite defender with the best wheels in baseball, not named Chandler Simpson.
And you know he's going to grind out and get his walks at the very least.
Yeah.
73, Colson Montgomery of the Chicago White Sox. He slipped. He has slipped. There's no doubt about that. There's a guy that looked like he could be on a fast track to becoming one of the best prospects in baseball at one point. And he just stalled out at the upper levels. Kind of rushed to Double-A, then just could never really get recalibrated. Not blaming it on that. He would have had the learning curve there one way or another. But it just seems like that level was where the reckoning came in. And all of a sudden, a guy that was flashing above average hit, and you're like, oh, well, wait till the power comes through. Now it looks like power over hit. And it's just a weird shift in identity there. Mechanically, things have gotten away from him a bit, and we broke that down a little bit more in the White Sox episode, but he's out and around the baseball a lot, and it's very pull dependent, and being that pull dependent, I think has resulted in him having a lot more blue zones and easier to game plan for if you're an opposing pitcher. And the lower half is just, it seemed like he's flying open a little bit, trying to get, I think, that barrel out to get to the pull side, but that's also resulting in him swinging under and kind of dragging under velocity. He had a near 30% in-zone whiff rate against four-seamers. And if you include the Arizona Fall League last year, he hit 165 against four-seamers. If you're struggling to catch up to velo and you're just struggling to get on plane for fastballs, that should be the immediate tell that you're flying open and you're heavy on the front foot. And we need to change something here. And I just don't know if I've seen a substantive change from him in the box, really, since he's had these struggles. And I know people were talking about the Fall League and like, oh, it looks different. I thought it looked exactly the same.
Okay.
And I just don't know if it's, and now we're seeing in spring training kind of similar struggles early going. I don't want to put too much stock in that for prospects, but I didn't think the Fall League looked all that different, to be honest. And he's got time. He just turned 23, but we're starting to get to the point where the struggles are a little bit more prolonged than you want to see for a guy. You can't say learning curve, adjustment period. He needs to figure this out.
It was a flat out underwhelming year in AAA. So you just laid out the entire offensive profile. I have 2 yes or no questions. Yes or no question number 1. Is Colson a big league shortstop?
I think he's a third baseman.
Okay. Second one. Did you find it a little weird that the White Sox already optioned him?
Honestly, no.
Really?
Because
okay.
I think he needs to get his work in.
All right. So those are 2 really interesting answers. And I was expecting maybe the answer to be no to the shortstop one, although I know that they set out to have him play shortstop in spring training games. And I'm sure he's going to be playing shortstop in these minor league games, and he'll be playing some shortstop in Charlotte. But we saw him play third in the Fall League.
Which is the weird part. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that started to make sense. The one to me is like the White Sox could round out an opening day roster without Colson Montgomery, Brooks Baldwin, and Chase Mydroth on it. And that would make 0 sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's just brutal. And I feel for you White Sox fans, but yeah, Colson, I guess you don't want to shove him up there if he's not ready. And he clearly has things to get through in AAA, but repeating AAA is just, it's a bad look for a team that won 41 games a year ago.
That part I do understand. I just think with him, it's like, okay, his potential is so immense. And if you're trying to specifically work on something, it's really hard to do that in fight or flight mode.
Sure.
What is Chase Mydroth does not need to go back. What the hell would be the point?
No, that's flat out stupid. I think Baldwin too. Brooks Baldwin, like that would just be flat out stupid. If
it would be dumb. I think with Montgomery, and it wasn't just, it was small sample, but he just looked completely overmatched in those 9 at-bats. I know he left the yard once, but like it didn't look great. And I'm sure there's some specific mechanical things that they want him to work on and whatever. And so like, I'm okay with him doing that in like a controlled game setting. And I think that might not be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know. It's really difficult because you can still so easily see a player that could play. It could be a plus power hitting third baseman who gets on base at a solid clip, and maybe the hit tool starts to show back up again and it's closer to average. But then at the same time, you're seeing a guy that is struggling to get into that power consistently because he's not quite hitting enough. And then it's just not even really hitting the ball that hard because I think he's almost fighting his mechanics at times. Like a 35% hard hit rate for a guy of his archetype is just, and that's including the fall league where he did hit a lot better. It's just not what you want to see. And you imagine where he's playing at home as a guy that's selling out for the pull. You'd think he would be able to tap into a little bit more consistent power, and he didn't.
Right.
It's a year where you really want to see some shift here. And when he's at his best, he's using the whole field. And I like guys to get that air pull down and have that down. But I think it just became too easy to game plan for him. And I know that there were some things that I highlighted in the write-up, but he didn't hit a single home run to the opposite field in 2024.
Damn.
With a longer levered guy, like those are guys that can backspin the ball to the other way. If you're a longer levered guy selling out for the pole, you're going to have a hard time hitting enough. And you're going to have a hard time getting on plane for stuff that's velo at the top of the zone. And that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah.
Get to 72 here, who I think is a guy that could surprise and end up being factored into the equation for the Athletics. Can we just call them the Sacramento A's? Is that like
Sacktown? Yeah, Sacktown stand
the Sacramento A's. As much as they don't want to be called that, like, yeah, you do. That's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
Luis Morales. He, I think, came in for one inning so far in spring training. He averaged 97 on the fastball.
Good.
Scoreless inning.
Fuzz.
He is disgusting. And I still think he's one of the most underrated pitching prospects in baseball. I understand the command is not great. Walked 11% of batters last year. But when he is around the zone, you have a potential for 3+ pitches and a solid curveball as well. Fastball dependent because he is falling behind in a lot of counts. But the stuff is really, really impressive. And if he can take a step forward command-wise this year, this is 100% a guy that could be a middle rotation starter. But he could also be a volatile back-end starter who gives you flashes of more, but then also frustrating. What I like is the fallback could be him in high leverage where his loose arm and pair of nasty breaking or pair of nasty secondaries could work really well out of the pen as well if they needed to do that.
Dude, that arsenal, like, you just got to try it as a starting pitcher, especially because they're trying to find this rotation. And we talk about this bullpen like not being the worst in baseball, but last year we did talk about this rotation being one of the worst, if not the worst, in Major League Baseball. Colorado's always going to have that burden of throwing at altitude, but last year, like, there was minimal intrigue 5 nights a turn in that rotation for Oakland. Like, at points, it was Sears to Estes to Spence to Beto. And there's just not much fun to watch there. So I understand that Springs is in the fold now. I understand that Severino is in the fold now. But you have this chance to build with other guys like Barnett and Perkins. If Morales does look like a mid-rotation starter behind a Severino, who's there for the long haul now, like, that can start to get exciting. And that's, I don't want to say the final piece of the puzzle for them because they need a home too. But it is a big piece of the on-field puzzle for the A's.
I love his delivery too. It's a long arm action, and I think that's why he struggles to really land it consistently in the zone. But it's so loose and whippy and smooth, and I think that's why he's able to generate the spin rates that he does. It's over 2,400 RPM on the fastball. And then you think about what he can snap off from there. The curveball averaged 2,900, over 2,900 RPM, the slider over 2,700. Two very distinct shapes too, where you're getting like a ton of sweep, 17 inches, 17 and a half inches of sweep on one, and then 10 with like a little bit more vertical on the other. And then the changeup that he mixes in, man, from that release point is it just looks just like the fastball until it's too late. It's impressive stuff. I mean, he could strike out hitters in droves if he finds a little bit more consistency. 5'7" release height, getting nearly 17 inches of vert too. Like, that'll play. If the command is a little bit better, all of a sudden, as you laid out, the A's have some arms in the upper minors that can be factors as soon as late this year, early 2026.
You know what this is? This for the YouTube crowd, it's like the weird, it's like the dad throwing batting practice. Like, that's what Luis Morales is in a good way, where the hand separates and drops low, so he just like whips it around. Yeah. I have no idea how he has the feel for a changeup consistently from that.
It's crazy,
but like, keep doing it, man.
And he doesn't really have the consistent feel with the secondaries, and that's the problem. Across the secondaries this past year, 53% strike rate on those pitches. So that's what he needs to find. And if he finds that, he could strike out north of 30% of batters this coming season. Travis Sykora checks in at number 71.
Mr. Hip.
Yeah. Mr. Minor hip procedure. Speaking of striking out 30% of batters, he struck out nearly 40 this past year. If it weren't for the hip procedure, probably closer to the middle of the top 100. But also the fact that we just didn't see him throw above low A was a little weird. It can't hold it against him personally. Obviously, it wasn't up to him. But I don't know why the Nationals felt obligated to keep him in low A for 22 starts, especially if you include the postseason starts, where, by the way, he combined for 10 innings of no runs, 18 strikeouts, 1 walk, 2 hits. I wanted to see how it looks in high A because we see so frequently pitchers with a great fastball and one wipeout secondary can just dominate against low A competition. He has 2 nasty secondaries, but how dominant is that splitter against better competition, given it wasn't as consistent for him? Like, I wanted to see that. Didn't get to see that yet. We will once he comes back off of this hip surgery. But I mean, what he did last year, he was statistically the most impressive pitcher, I think, in the minor leagues, or one of.
What's his highest level this year? Where does he climb to?
It's got to get to double. He has to. Well, he's starting late, though. I don't know when he's going to be back. Yeah. But I still think he should get to double pretty quickly, unless he struggles in high A.
I would think so, too. I'm thinking, like, okay, he needs to get to Harrisburg at some point, and I hope it's, at the All-Star break, you get the bump from Wilmington to Harrisburg, and then you can, maybe throw a couple times in Harrisburg before a quick bump to triple in 2026. And then at that point, you're just waiting until September or something. But yeah, I just thought it was really weird that he didn't throw it all. And there are many stones that are unturned for him. And like, there's not much to analyze past that, because then you're just playing a guessing game. It's like, oh, how's he going to fare against, non-19-year-olds? Who do you think gets to the big leagues first, Susana or Sykora?
Oh, that's a great question. I think Susana. Like, they're weirdly just more aggressive with him.
Is a starter or reliever?
Starter. I'm not jumping ship on the Susana. I have a stat that I dropped in our Discord that I'm gonna save for when we talk Susana. It's got to be one of the crazier stats pitching wise. It really highlights how insane Susana is stuff wise.
Yeah, you shouldn't jump ship on any of these guys, but Susana, like, it was 10 starts in high A last year. After 17 in low A in 23, where he had a 5.1, he made 14 more to 4.5. And then he goes to Wilmington and he cased 74 in 47 in the third inning. So I think it's probably Susana, but I do think that they kind of get there at a similar time.
It's going to be very similar.
Through 26.
And, Sykora having the 3 pitches for that, I think all are going to play quite well. It can allow him to climb quickly. But the big thing I want to see is, you can overwhelm low A hitters with just sheer velocity, and he averaged 95 miles per hour with his fastball. And then, when you have the slider working off of it and the splitter, like, that fastball is just going to play up against these hitters. But when you look at the shape, it's 15.5 inches of vert, about 10 inches of horizontal from a 6'1" release height. So it's kind of a standard shape. And if anything, too much horizontal to where it starts to bleed closer to the dead zone than you want. Like, there's a lot of fastballs I'm looking at that he's throwing that are 14 and 13. Yeah. Those are going to get hit harder if you don't locate it well at the more challenging levels, which is fine if the splitter and the changeup the splitter and the slider are comfortably above average, which they can be. But I think the fastball may not be as dominant against more challenging competition. So that's the other reason why I just want to see him above low A. Yeah. That slider's disgusting, though, by the way. It might be a future 70 pitch. Hard to know at just low A, but low A hitters hit below 100 against it. So it's pretty darn gross. Blake Mitchell checks in at number 70. And Mitchell's another prospect that's difficult to rank, because sometimes I just want to throw him way up there because it looks like the Cal Raleigh starter kit. Yeah. But at the same time, the Cal Raleigh starter kit is a very turbulent and volatile path to getting to Cal Raleigh. Right? There's a lot of hit tool hurdles to get there, and a lot of fallen soldiers on the way who didn't hit enough. So that's what I'm looking at with a Mitchell, where there's stretches where you feel like, okay, maybe this guy will hit enough. And then there's stretches where it's like, oh man, he's going to swing and miss a lot, huh? He struggles to recognize sliders, which is a concern for me, because he's very patient. Plate discipline looks like it can be plus, but then sharp sliders, all of a sudden, he's struggling to shut it down, and he hit below 200 against sliders. But sub 20 chase rate, actually ran an in-zone contact rate of 80%, which is pretty remarkable for a guy that struck out 31% of the time. But that's because of the slider issue. Plus raw power that he's still just continuing to learn how to tap into, and a guy that should be a well above average defensive catcher. It was the reason I had 40 present was he borderline had the yips last year.
Really?
But I think you can look at him and say with the receiving and the blocking, he's going to comfortably be an above average catcher. He might even progress into a plus catcher.
What does that mean? Borderline had the yips, like couldn't throw it back to the mound?
He could throw it back to the mound, but every time he went to throw it down to second base on an attempted steal, he threw it away. Like it was
like
insane.
Like into center or spiked it?
Both. But a lot
So
in the center.
He was just missing the bullseye. Got it.
And he's got like a 70 arm back there.
Huh.
I want to see if we had the error totals here.
To be honest, like it might just be a timing thing. Like that is, and it's weird because, you know, when you grow up, if anybody listening to this grew up playing catcher, like you just kind of let your athleticism take over. And that is, you know, to a large extent what it is in professional baseball too, but it is a timing thing. And when you get bigger, when you get stronger, timing is really important. So the timing could have just been off for him.
It must have been because, I mean, and I think opponents knew that and they were going. Yeah. So 113 stolen bases in 63 games behind the dish.
Oh, yeah. They were just daring him to put the ball in the bag.
He threw out 19. It's a 14%. That's a guy with a plus arm. So 16 errors. I ventured that 13 of them were throwing.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. Good blocker. The receiving's good. The arm's crazy. So you can see it progressing to there, but I'm sure he's been working hard on the fundamentals and that side of things, just to be more consistent there. But if he's an above average defender with plus power, which again, we started to see him really get into that. He hit a ball 450 this past season, like 110, 450. Like he can hit the ball really, really hard, and he generates plenty of loft. He's only a 34% ground ball rate. He's going to be a 3 true outcome hitter that it's just a matter of if that power is plus and if that defense is above average. If those two things happen, he's that Cal Raleigh light that is a really valuable and good player. We did the Marlin systems, kind of that Joe Mack conversation as well.
Yeah.
That's the bar offensively to be an everyday catcher is not that high. So if you can walk and hit homers and then provide value defensively, you're going to have a nice career. Yeah. But there's more than that in the tank for Blake Mitchell potentially, especially if you just shelter him from lefties. 825 OPS against righties, 571 against lefties. Easy to shelter your catcher from lefties. Those are just the days you give him off.
Correct.
All right, Cole Young checks in at 69 of the Seattle Mariners. Young, still just 21 years old as well. Kind of a prospect fatigue guy, right? It feels like he's been around forever because he so immediately was impressive after being drafted out of high school and has just continuously been solid. But it was somewhat of a disappointing year last year because he just got off to such a slow start, made some mechanical adjustments and finished strong. But we've talked about it. After making those mechanical adjustments, the quality of contact wasn't there as much, but he did produce better. So, you know, who am I? He hit 301, 419, 381 over the final 30 games if you sprinkle in a couple of the Arizona Fall League games before he got hurt. Yeah. Well, my concern is the in-zone contact rates took a step backwards. And he's a guy that needs to be above average hit tool wise. Plate discipline's great. He's shown the ability to hit the ball 110 miles an hour. Yeah. But all of a sudden that wasn't really there as much last year. He doesn't need to be that guy, but it's nice especially when the hit tool takes a step backwards. And it seemed like it took a half step backwards last year. So it would help a lot if he could stick it short. I still do think that the hit tool gets underrated. Or excuse me, the defensive ability gets underrated, not the hit tool. But at the same time, he's probably a guy that's ultimately going to move off of that position in deference for a better defender. So it's second base, most likely, who can plug in there, and it's hit over power. So that hit tool needs to be comfortably above average, and it looked average last year.
So could he just be Donovan? Like I'm thinking Brendan Donovan, like make boring sexy. That's what Cole Young has done. And obviously Donovan has this wrinkle that Cole Young will not have, which is play everywhere. And Donovan can play left field, can play second base. But if Brendan Donovan of St. Louis was an everyday second baseman, it feels like that's the kind of thing you're dreaming on with Cole Young, where Donovan's going to hit 270, but can have a 380 on base in his best year. And even if he's hitting 245, 250, he's going to have a 360 on base, maybe even 365. And the homers are not going to be super duper present. Young may steal a couple more bags, although Donovan grabs some occasionally, I think. The offensive profile is just kind of similar to me, where it's like, okay, you do everything pretty good. And that, I think, is a player that teams should not be taking for granted, especially when they can draw their walks.
Absolutely agree. And that's why I think when I think about the archetype, and that's why when we're looking at these players, it's like, okay, how does this guy become a valuable everyday big leaguer? What's his archetype? And then what does he need to excel at to be a successful version of that archetype? He's in that Brendan Donovan archetype. That means the hit tool needs to be plus. Brendan Donovan runs an in-zone contact rate north of 90%.
Okay.
And that's something that I've always figured Cole Young is capable of. And hitters rarely make a massive leap that way, but Cole Young has tinkered with his mechanics so many times that I wonder if he just finds something that clicks and works for him. Like in 2023, he ran an in-zone contact rate of 85% and out-of-zone contact rate of about 70%. That's still not quite Brendan Donovan range, but I think you can also look at him and say, hey, he's going to be a little bit more speedy. He might be able to tap into a little bit more power. Like we've seen Cole Young really get into some power. But just to see him whiff a little bit more this year was, and I know it didn't really show up in the strikeout rate nearly as much, but still at the same time, it was like, I want to see this guy really excel in the bat to ball department. So if that's something that he can take another step forward or kind of get back to where he was in 2023 at the upper levels, that would be great to see. Again, still just 21, but the plate discipline being plus, I think really does put him in that Donovan bucket. And then maybe if the hit tool does stall out some, you hope that he taps into that power where it's closer to 45 grade, where he hit 11 home runs this past year and he can get into it a little bit more to the pull side. It's sneaky. So that might be the way where he offsets the hit tool being a little bit shy, but I do think that is still that archetype for him. I agree.
Yeah.
68, Chase Petty. He's climbing, man. The Reds may have another starter here that could be the next man up. Would you say it's hard because you have Chase Burns right there as well?
Well, they may also pinch Louder out of the conversation at the beginning of the year, so he would certainly be the next man up. Just thinking about what they're going to have on opening day, Cincinnati would probably be running out Hunter Green, Brady Singer, Nick Lodolo, and then Nick Martinez and Andrew Abbott off the dome. So then that would put Louder in Louisville, and that would also create this backlog of Petty and Burns. We just brought up Memphis, having Quinn Matthews, Tink Hence, and Michael McGreevy in the rotation. Pittsburgh, too. Bubba Chandler, Harrington, Ashcraft, Mike Burrows, all in the rotation, too. And then you deal with Louisville, and that could be Louder, Petty, and Burns. Good luck, like international league hitters, dude. That's really hard to see.
And the Reds are in a great spot where if someone goes down, and they've dealt with that a lot because of Lodolo and even Green at times, you have a bunch of prospects who are ready to plug in.
Yeah.
And
they did not have that before. Like they tried to figure out Carson Spires for 70 innings and like Brandon Williamson for longer than he probably should have been.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're plugging and playing guys that can go out there and punch out 8, 10 if they're on. Petty, what I like is he's been open to change and adjusting, and I think very much looking at the data and saying, okay, well, my fastball is not going to play as much like this, so why don't I try it this way? We've seen him mix in the sinker at times so that he can get some ground balls, but then he became too sinker heavy and wasn't getting enough whiff, so then he kind of recalibrated and now is doing a bit of the hybrid where he got the four-seamer to be at least where he wants it to be from a shape perspective, because he just was never going to get a ton of carry. But getting it away from the dead zone enough to where if he's locating it and throwing 96, 97, it's going to work, but still being able to mix that sinker in when he wants the ground balls. And then he added a sweeper, which I think was huge for him too. That really helped him right on right. And then tweaked the harder, shorter slider as well, which has become a disgusting pitch for him. And I believe like he messed up his finger, and like that actually helped him have a nastier outcome with the
That
pitch.
happened to everybody. That didn't happen to you when you were in middle school?
No. My dad was a pitcher in high school and had a crooked finger, and he actually told me that had unlocked something for him too, where he started throwing the ball moving like it never did. And I think that happened with Petty.
That was the kick change. That was the kick change before it actually came into it.
Just literally break your finger. But that slider is one of the best pitches in the Reds system. I think obviously you have a Chase Burns slider that's going to be better, but Petty's is not too far off. Opponents at 180 against it last year.
Yeah.
The fastball just being in a better spot overall is a really good development for him. Adding that sweeper was huge, especially for right on right. And then the changeup progressed into a fine fourth offering or third offering for left-handed hitters as well. But that slider, the way it works is a gyro pitch. Like it's nasty to lefties as well. So he's got the arsenal to turn over lineups that are right-handed heavy or left-handed heavy. And he posted pretty consistent splits. 700 OPS allowed against lefties, 733 OPS against righties. He gets ground balls when he needs them. The question is going to be, can he keep the ball in the yard at Great American Ballpark? But he did a pretty good job of keeping the ball in the yard last year, only 11 home runs, because that was a concern for me a little bit with the fastball getting hit at times. By the way, it doesn't turn 22 for another month.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, it seems like the arsenal and like the results over the last 2 years or so have pointed to him keeping the ball in the ballpark at Great American versus like when they acquired him from Minnesota, it seemed like that was a guy that was going to deal with the homer problem. But guys just figure it out. And it seems like he figured it out as a prospect as opposed to the Hunter Green situation where it took him 2 years in the big leagues to figure that out.
Yeah. And what I like is he doesn't have to K guys to get outs now. He's getting more weak contact, more lazy fly balls. I mean, he allowed only a 28% hard hit rate over his final 10 starts. And that's at AAA mixed in at the end there with 2 starts as a 21-year-old and plenty in AA as well. So it was an impressive year from Chase Petty that absolutely rocketed him onto the top 100. And he was not on. So that's a newcomer here that revisited the list after what he did. And I mean, it's just hard to deny the results and the willingness to adjust the arsenal to see those positive results.
Yeah.
Speaking of willingness to adjust, Xavier Isaac ditched the leg kick. And I think that's going to help him make more contact. The Rays first base prospect has crazy power potential. That said, the changes that he's working through right now have resulted in some challenges in spring training. He's had 11 plate appearances and he struck out 7 times. But I do think ultimately it's going to be beneficial for him. They gave him 4 ABs the other day where he had to face Nola and Jose Alvarado. And then I think ultimately Orion Kerkering, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to see exactly who he had to face. So it's kind of like you're welcome to the big leagues, even though you're not in the big leagues. Okay, so it was he saw Nola, Alvarado, Jordan Romano, Gene Cabrera, and then Jonah Dipoto.
Dipoto's got some gross stuff too. Who knew Jerry's kid had that in the tank?
Right? But he ultimately, I think he's going to be able to cut down on the swing and miss. But that is the big question. That is why he slipped a little bit. When he got to AA, there was a lot more swing and miss. It's a guy that's relied on natural ability, and he's a great athlete for a 6'4", 240-pound first baseman. And that's evident by his ability to steal backs, which is kind of crazy. Was he 27 for 30 last year? But he's going to be making his living off of the power.
Yeah.
And it's all fields. He hit some of the more comical home runs we saw last year where I'd send you the video and like, look at this swing.
Right.
And it's over the scoreboard, or looks like he's fooled and it's one arm swing and it's out to dead center. It's like, what in the world?
Yeah.
He's just 21. He was 20 years old when he got to AA and started to swing and miss, but he swung and missed a lot. He struck out 35% of the time last year.
Yeah.
And I did feel like it was the cadence of things where big leg kick, hands weren't moving in tandem with that, where it was like leg goes up, hands moving. And again, a guy that relies on athleticism, but when you get out of sync and then you're facing the best stuff that you've ever seen, it starts to get picked apart. And that's exactly what happened. He's mashed. He still was productive amidst the swing and miss concerns and issues.
Yeah.
But he's going to need to rectify that in AA or else will continue to fall. I think he can. And he's going to earn himself a lot of patience when you have a 56% hard hit rate and a 90th percentile of 108 miles per hour.
Dude, I mean, I thought he recalibrated really well in the fall league. Like that fall league showing is really important for, him not having a sour taste in his mouth when it came to ending the year, because he was one of the best hitters in minor league baseball when he was in high A, and then he gets the bump to double and he's exposed like you're laying out. I also have terrible news for you. You ready to turn into the Joker?
No.
Sitting out the spring breakout game because of a sore wrist and elbow, it seems.
I'm so excited for the spring breakout game. That performance that he put on last time we were there was one of the best single game baseball performances I've seen in a while. Just
no Xavier Isaac in spring breakout, so you'll just have to settle for Carson Williams and Chandler Simpson and Brody Hopkins and everybody else. Who am I missing? Trey Morgan and then Roman Meyer, Campbell,
Braden Taylor.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that game is going to be insane.
Yeah.
Insane. I'm excited for that one. We'll have coverage. I'll have all the video you need. I'll be out there. And yeah, that's the spring breakout game right there.
Yeah. Last year was Pirates O's, and this year it's Red Sox Rays.
Yeah. But with Isaac, they've mixed him into left field a little bit or right field a little bit in the fall league. I want to see a little bit more of that, like, because he can move a bit for a guy of his build. 27 for 30 over the last 2 seasons is the number, but still, for a guy that's that big, and he moves really, really athletically, and in the box, that's an asset as well. But he's got to find a way to leverage that more so that he's not swinging and missing to the degree that he is. But I mean, it's 70 raw power, it's 70 future game power with the way that he's able to get into it to all fields. And I mean, even if he's striking out 28-30% of the time, he's going to be a productive big leaguer. If you have to shelter him from lefties, that's fine. But even amidst the struggles last year, 945 OPS against righties. Yeah. That's going to play. But I'm interested to see if they keep trying the right field experiment, and if the mechanical adjustments can help him make more contact. Definitely needs to improve upon that, but the swing decisions are good enough too. That's going to help if the hit tool is below average.
Yeah.
66, another power over hit guy that I am pumped to see if he can make enough contact to get into it. Eric Bitonti, the Milwaukee Brewers. And I think he has a bit more of a feel for the barrel at this point, but at the same time, we probably would have said that about Isaac when he was 19 at low A doing what he was doing. But Bitonti, talk about all fields. This is even more all fields. Like he is hitting balls off the other foul pole sometimes that he just catches deep and it just backspins and flies. He's extremely patient for his size. Usually guys with that big of a zone, it's hard to be that patient. Ran a chase rate below 20%. He is not the archetype that I would have expected to be able to handle a quick push to low A like he did. And that's what really helped solidify him as a top 100 prospect for us. But, as a 6'5" prepster overslot guy in the 3rd round, was not thinking he'd get to low A and succeed. And did he light it up? No, but he did look really darn solid for a 18-year-old 6'5" prepster. In low A, 805 OPS, and launched 8 homers in 28 games. So you could say he lit it up from a homer perspective.
Yeah, I would go out on a limb and say he lit it up. It was a 131 WRC plus. Where do you cut off lighting it up? So he was well above average, obviously, in that league, and he's 2.5 years younger than the league average hitter in the Carolina League. So I thought he kicked tail. I think you are the only person. Yeah, you're the only outlet with Eric Bitonti as a top 100 prospect, and you've got him at 66. So congratulations. This is your statement.
Yeah.
What?
Well, apparently the top 10 is a real statement. So
yeah.
But no, watch him swing.
Yeah.
It's so loose and fluid for a 6'5", 225 pound 18-year-old, now just turned 19-year-old. And the ability to backspin to all fields. I got a lot of replies when I posted the swing. People were like, oh, kind of looks like Yelich. And I get it because that's the best compliment a guy like Bitonti can get, because to have that kind of lower half mobility and hip mobility that you can see with him, you don't get that from guys that big, that young. So to have that tells me he's going to be adjustable. That tells me that he's going to be able to make any changes that he needs to make potentially to make more contact, but also getting into the backside when you're fooled, being able to have that adjustable swing and still do damage because you're so big. His B swings will be able to be, I think, impactful.
Yeah.
You pair that with good plate discipline, the fact that he held his own left on left, and I don't think it's fully out of the question that he could survive at third base, But ultimately, if he moves to first, I think he'd be a comfortably above average defender there. He moves great for his size from a footwork perspective. So if you put him at first, he could be a well above average defender there too. So this, to me, easy top 100 guy. But yeah, another guy that was not on the top 100 that jumped all the way to 66 because of the power upside and what we saw him do last year. Only a 30% ground ball rate, by the way, too.
Does he have cards?
Yes, he does.
There you go.
Yes. And I may have already purchased one.
Nice.
65, Demetrio Crisantes, Arizona Diamondbacks. This is just as safe of a prospect. This is why top 100 is so funny. You go from Isaac and Bitonti. Hope they hit enough. Maybe they'll hit 40. If they do, they don't. They may stall out in the upper minors. Demetrio Crisantes will get to the big leagues, and he will hit enough. It's just, will he impact the baseball enough to be an above-average regular? I think the answer is yes. We'll find out. Crisantes is the guy that nobody knew of during high school, and I think was a stone's throw from the Mexican border. Just not an area that was getting scouted much, and the Diamondbacks did a good job in their own backyard and picked him in the 7th round, overslotted him for 5th round money, and it looks like a heist of a signing. What a year he had last year, by the way. What levels do you have it in front of you, just to make sure? Was it all low A?
It was 29 games at the complex and 63 in low A.
It's a 19-year-old 7th round pick, 5th round money. He slashed 341, 429, 491. It's a 920 OPS, 12% walk rate, 15.5% K rate, 38% ground ball rate's what stands out to me. You have a guy that's that advanced hit tool wise, and he's also hitting the ball in the air, so you can maybe dream on a little bit more power. I mean, he might push closer to 45 grade power as he matures. Who knows? But I think you can dream on above average hit, plus plate discipline, fringe average power. He's above average runner. It's just such a well-rounded game, and he's going to be a fine defender at second base as well.
Dude, I'm just sitting here like watching this single back up the gut against Eric Swan, who we talked about in the Arizona Fall League, and it was 98.7 coming in, and he's just so short to the ball. Like,
he doesn't move. It's incredible.
It's crazy. Like that's the kind of guy I'm with you. Like, you just bet on figuring it out at every single stop. If he for some reason was shuttled out to AAA, was like, all right, deal with these guys, he could probably do it.
Yes, I genuinely think he could survive anywhere. Yeah. He wouldn't be as productive because he'd be more like fight or flight battle.
Yeah, exactly. But like, he could work 10 pitch ABs.
Oh yeah. Well, it doesn't move. And usually for hitters, you have to do something with your body because you're going to be too stiff and your timing's going to be weird and you're going to be too eager. So like, that's why everybody has their own individual pre-swing moves. The guys that can not move and do damage are the craziest to me. That's Gunnar Henderson. Even Bobby Witt barely moves, right? Like, though, and he's not in that realm because he doesn't produce that kind of violence without moving, which is the craziest part. You go look at Gunnar, still hands, pick it up, put it down, go. It's wild. But for Crisantes to not be producing Chandler Simpson EVs, given he's 5'11", 180, 19 years old, now now 20, while not moving and being contact oriented, that's very telling that he's going to be able to maintain this, and he can be a doubles machine. But what I also like is he's going to naturally just grow into more man strength. So not moving and just the same swing will start to generate a little bit more impact. But on this, beyond that, his timing is so consistent because he doesn't have variables disrupting them that's how he's able to get the ball in the air. Usually when your timing gets disrupted, that's where you're going to see the higher ground ball rates. 38% ground ball rate is a contact-oriented hitter. Sub 20 chase, hits the ball hard enough. 90th percentile of 102.5 is more than enough for a guy like him. I think he could fly up the ranks. The only reason why he's not higher is just want to see him do it a little bit at high A, and also he's second base only at this point. But it's just solid across the board.
Yeah.
64, Jackson Ferris.
Mm-hmm.
You've been watching this guy in spring training?
Yeah.
The Dodgers, I mean, that deal. Cubs fans are some of the most outspoken about the rankings because Zaire Hope's in the top 10 and Ferris in the top 65 or whatever. I don't have anything against that. Like before, the Cubs fans loved us because we ranked the Cubs guys high. I like a lot of the Cubs prospects. Not my fault they trade them. Ferris looks like he could be a heist on top of Zaire Hope. Talk about a loose arm action and just like for a 6'4" southpaw. He got 2 innings in a big league spring training game against the Rangers, and he punched out 5. Yeah. He's sitting 96 in that outing. The velo has climbed. The command has improved. The slider has improved. This guy's a pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, man, like we were worried that he was a bit more of a project when he was acquired by the Dodgers last offseason, but it was coming off 56 innings at a 3.4 ERA. Now he K'd 12.5 per nine, but he walked 5.5. And we were like, okay, is this guy going to have a field pitch? It seems like he's a nasty lefty, and this may work out of a bullpen. And then he gives you 127 innings in his age 20 season. It's not because we hate you, Cubs fans. It's because as a 20-year-old, he got to Double-A and in 7 starts had a 2.5 in Double-A and threw 127 innings.
Yeah.
Just look at the stat line.
Yeah.
And then watch the arsenal.
The last 12 outings of the year, which included 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in Double-A, 1.59 ERA. Opponents also hit 159 against him. And he only allowed 2 home runs in what was a lot of Texas League games and then playing in Great Lakes. Yeah. The other side is that he's not even close to finished product yet. This is one of my picks to click where, like, if you're talking about guys that could be popular questions, like who's a guy that could be in the top 20 by midseason update? Here's an answer.
Really?
Not just because he's a Dodgers prospect, because he's not even close to a finished product.
Dude, you're digging the knife in.
It's just, they're wearing me out, man. And it's probably not fair. It's like some other people that it's not just Cubs fans. It's just people that just think that we're like, I care about the Dodgers. There just happen to be Roki and then 2 other Dodgers on the top 10 list. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is he was sitting 93.8 for a lot of the year. Velo got higher as the year progressed. Final 12 starts 94.5. And now we're seeing him at 96 in shorter spurts. But if he's 95, that's a tick and change up. Slider, sharper, harder as well. So those are the 2 pitches he dominated with. He started to mix in a changeup and a curveball, but barely. If one of those pitches takes a leap this coming year with the deception in his delivery and the improvement command-wise, he could absolutely be a guy that makes that leap this year. He could also just stall out and just be more of a 2-pitch guy that occasionally mixes in the third one, and then he's probably hovering in this 60 range, 50 range, and he's going to be a solid number 4 starter at the big league level.
Yeah.
But if that curveball comes along from a consistency standpoint, I like the curveball more than the changeup. That could put him in a spot where he's a solid 3, and maybe even a little bit more than that. But there's still a wide range of outcomes here for a 21-year-old who's going to be 21 for the entirety of the season. 63. I just don't have much. I feel like we've seen so much Connor Griffin and no Bryce Rainer. I don't know why, what the deal is. The Tigers don't really like playing their prospects this spring or whatever, right? Like, haven't they just kind of been weird about that?
I think we didn't see any plate appearances from Clark, McGonigal, and Lorenzo. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, they played a little bit. They got into games later. The other day, I think those 3 drove each other in, which was cool.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But they're not even non-roster invitees. Like they were not even invited to spring training this year.
Kevin McGonigal were 1 for 3. Yeah. So it is really weird, but Rainer, he has yet to play a game that's publicly available.
Yeah. So all I have to go back to, and from a data perspective, is 2 line drives. He hit 111 with metal in a high school tournament.
That's so sick, though. Good for him.
Then those are rockets.
Is that 70 pop then?
Hell if I know. But he's so talented, and it's when you look at the potential here and what he can be in this system too. And this is another guy. Him and Connor Griffin had top 3 round intrigue on the mound as well. But Rainer, I mean, you're looking at above average to plus power potential, staying power at shortstop. And that's enough right there, right? But the hit tool is a question. Both those guys, it's a question. Griffin is now edging him out because the tools are just off the charts now, and we're able to see him. So even though I was a little bit of Rainer ahead of Griffin in the beginning because I thought the swing was a little bit more advanced. What does Connor Griffin do? He shows up with a totally adjusted swing from what we saw in high school and then is producing. But I don't really care about the spring training results. Instead, he changed already what was, I think, an operation that was going to be difficult for him to be able to handle professional stuff. Knew that proactively, made the change. I don't know what Bryce Rainer's swing looks like. I haven't seen it. So I only can refer back to the high school stuff. But you're talking about a plus arm at shortstop with staying power there, plus power potential, and a sweet swing from the left side. Like, even if it's average hit, he's flashed really good plate discipline as well. It could be a really well-rounded left-handed hitting shortstop here.
Yeah. No, I have nothing to add. I'm sorry.
I'm looking forward to seeing him play, but another guy that I will see plenty of this year being in South Florida. So looking forward to those Lakeland games. I'll probably just go. I don't really want to go to Lakeland.
No,
I'll probably go in there down in Jupiter.
Yeah, Jupiter or Palm Beach.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're good.
Not a ton to add on Jonny Farmelo here at 62, Seattle Mariners prospect. I think he's going to come back in like June, July. We'll see.
It was an ACL here in June. Is that right?
Yeah. Tore his ACL. So unfortunate because he was on the cusp of really breaking out, I think. Yeah. And to me, still easy top 100 guy because you have plus speed. We'll see if he maintains that once he comes back. I'm sure he will, barring any, just issues from recovery. Contact rates were well above average, and I don't think anybody was expecting that, right? All you heard was the groove swing, this and that. 87% in zone contact rate, sub 20% chase rate, looks the part in center field, 40% hard hit rate. It's like, whoa, swing looks really nice from the left side where, yeah, I think he's going to swing and miss more against more challenging competition, but I also think he's going to consistently elevate, especially to the pull side. He hit 5 home runs in 58 games, 10 doubles, 4 triples, but only a 36% ground ball rate because he's elevating so naturally with that path, but still able to get to stuff at the top of the zone. He hammered 4-seamers, 927 OPS, 90% in zone contact rate against 4-seamers. So you have that speed, you have the hit tool coming along way more than you expected. You have the plate discipline, and he's hitting the ball hard with still more room to mature. That was always a 19-year-old. So he's going to come back from this ACL, 20 years old. We'll see. It's going to be a little bit of a lost season, but I think what he showed last year, he can make up for lost time really quick.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Dipoto said the quiet part out loud when it came to saying they hope to win 55% of their games year in and year out. And that is, I think, a good way to go about building an organization. But again, you probably just shouldn't say that publicly for your fans to take in. The other thing you probably shouldn't say publicly is, if 2 of the 3 picks that we had in that stretch at the end of the first round, beginning of the second in 2023 work out, then that's a huge win for us. Obviously, you want all 3 to work out. But if 2 of the 3 hit, that's a humongous win for Jerry Dipoto and Scott Hunter, I think his name is, and the rest of the Mariners front office. And it looks like Colt Emerson is on his way to being a win. Ty Pete was the project that I don't know. There's plenty of time, obviously, but things are going poorly right now. Farmelo's the wild card, and it seems like Farmelo could be much more of a win than a lot of people were initially anticipating when he was selected. So if they hit on 2 of those 3 guys, that is a phenomenal job given the opportunity they had at the end of the first round in 2023.
Yeah, I'm very eager to see how he looks when he comes back, but that approach and that feel to hit and the defensive ability, I think is going to allow him to be pushed a little bit more aggressively if they want. He's a little bit older for the draft too, so if they want to get him just moving up the ranks, and I think he easily can.
Yeah.
Last but not least, Charlie Condon. And yes, he's down from a lot of the other guys in his draft class, but he could also just regain a lot of those spots. This is just a player that was near impossible to rank because Condon, I had the hit tool concerns before the draft, and we talked about that a lot. I think we were probably the lowest outlet on him in terms of pre-draft rankings. I don't think anybody had him lower than we did in pre-draft rankings. I think maybe Fangraphs was close. And it was largely predicated on the swing mechanics. Just didn't feel like they were going to fully be able to translate unless he made some adjustments.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like if he's not absolutely mashing, we still don't even know what his long-term home is. It's probably left field. So is it going to be an asset out there? Probably not. And unfortunately, even though it was a very small sample, I would say Condon took my worst nightmares and like just shined a light on them in terms of like watching all of the ABs. It was like, oh man, pulling off the slider. Oh man, pulling off the slider. Oh man, he's pulling off the slider. Oh, he's trying to pull that pitch. Like that was the concern because he pulled everything. Everything that he did damage on was pulled. I think he had one Oppo home run, and it was the most metal bat home run of all time in his college in this college baseball season. I don't want to take anything away. It was an incredible season. He actually showed a good feel for the barrel when he could catch it out front. He crushes fastballs, but he wasn't even that productive against more quality sliders when we saw him face better competition. But if you look at the synergy data and you say, oh, well, he hit 400 against sliders. Yeah. But if you start to see good sliders, you saw him swing off of them and just pull off them, especially down later in the season. He was very pull dependent with long levers and would pull off of everything kind of when it was better and sharper towards the bottom of the zone. So that was the issue. And then with harder fastballs and pitches on the outer half with wood, you're not able to just mishit one that gets out as much. And you're not able to throw your hands at one to the same degree and have it still shoot, somehow back spinning into right or left center, or right center, I should say, when you don't have a great path to the ball. So your metal bat margin for error is just larger. You're going to get away with more. So right. I think we saw that, but he could make a mechanical change all of a sudden and be right back to being the guy that looks like he can hit 40 home runs because he's very, very strong, wiry strong. The long levers create crazy bat speed. And when he gets it in the air, I mean, it's gone. Like he's got a really good ability to have that high home run to fly ball rate, hard in the air, backspin, all that good stuff. But it's a very like downhill in and out of the zone path. We talked about that exactly before. And then that's what we saw in pro ball where it wasn't a huge sample, but against basically non-fastballs. I mean, he was bad in general, but non-fastballs, he hit 150 and just huge whiff numbers.
Yeah, like give him an off season to make an adjustment. And I think it's really interesting kind of where you stack up compared to other people in the industry. Pipeline has him at 29. BA and Prospectus both have him at 42. Fangraphs has him outside the top 100.
Whoa, so Fangraphs dropped all the way out.
Yeah, so you're settled here in between that, and then it seems like quote unquote the majority consensus of the industry, but I don't know, like the jury's out on Charlie Condon, and I think that's a good thing. I'm so curious to see what this year looks like for him. Just the first 2 months, because this guy's smart enough to make a change. Like he won the Golden Spikes. He put up one of the best 2-year college careers that we have ever seen. And if he didn't make a change, okay, like I totally understand the hit tool concerns, and it's probably trending closer to that 35. But who's to say like, oh, he didn't work on anything in the offseason? You know what I mean? Like that was his very, very first taste of better pitching. So let's see how he reacted to it. Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's just that swing as it was constructed at that point. It's just there's no way he's gonna be able to hit sliders. So or professional sliders, and we saw that. But we also saw him even in what was a very, very disappointing debut. Hit balls 108, 108, 109, 110, to the pull side, home run, no doubters. When it's timed up, you could see what he could do. Yeah. But the bat has got to stay in the zone longer. He's got to maintain direction better. But you can't teach the bat speed, the levers, and I mean, you saw it with the way that he's able to pulverize fastballs in college. So it's there. It's just, can he build on that? And even if he's just a mistake hitter, which I think is ultimately what he's going to be. I think I even wrote that in the pre-draft write-up. Crush fastballs and hangers. Plate discipline just needs to be sharp. Stuff's not going to move as well at cores. He can feast at cores. He can be a big splits guy and have a really nice career. And I think that's where it'll ultimately be. But I do think the hit tool might limit him to just being a mistake hitter. But if you have 70 power, that's fine. And I think that's what he can be. Yeah. That'll do it for this episode. We are through 60, or excuse me, we're up to 60 here. Yeah. So we'll be going from 60 to 41 on the next episode as we get closer and closer to the top of this top 100 list. Reminder to join our Discord. It's half off for the first month here, $5 if you join. Link is in the episode description. We'll be answering your questions all the time, and you'll be basically getting the stream of consciousness texts I send to Jack at 2 a.m. of videos of the dives we're doing into
prospects. You get access to Team Top prospect list in advance, all that good stuff. And we'll be talking ball all the time in there. A lot of fun value and stuff added in there as well, especially if you're a card collector or you like to get some bets going with Peter's channel going on there as well. So go check that out. Links in the episode description. Would love to have you. If you have any questions, let me know in the DM.
You'll like this one real quick, though. This is in the Just Baseball Discord, or the Just Baseball Show channel in our Discord. JC Penny said, what should I realistically be expecting from Juan Brito until Travis Bazzana gets his call up? I have no idea whether or not his 40 double power is going to translate to the big leagues or not. And Peter replied and tagged me and said, Jack McMullen thinks both of them win the MVP. I'm like, yeah, correct. I think second base for Cleveland's going to be really good, but that's the prospect in me coming out.
Yeah. I know you guys had a good debate there on Bazzana, so on the Just Baseball show.
Okay, yeah. So here's one for you guys. I have Bazzana with a higher WRC plus than Brooks Lee. Sample does not matter. He was like, let's make a war bet. I was like, no, because Lee's going to play more than Bazzana. And he was like, okay, WRC plus then. I think Travis Bazzana is going to have a better WRC plus in Major League Baseball in 2025 than Brooks Lee. Peter thinks Brooks Lee will have a higher WRC plus than Bazzana in 25. Yes.
Let us know what you got in the comments. The other fun part is we can get people involved in our podcast debates and see who really was right. But that sounds good. We will be talking prospects with you later this week, and I'll have some spring breakout coverage for you as well. Keep up with me on X because I'll be posting stuff on there and on the Instagram, and I'll be writing up some of the takeaways because it'll be my first look at a lot of these players, or at least some of the recent draftees. We'll talk to you then.